All right. Hi, everybody. Checking in to say hello. Um, let's see. I wanted to do uh, just all right. Yeah. So I guess. Sorry, I'm in the middle of moving, so my brain is kind of all over the place. Can everyone hear me? Okay. Um, I know there's always a little lag, but um, audio good. Awesome. All right. Cool. So today, what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a basic round of our warm-ups and warm-up cuts and such, and then we are going to have a little lecture. It shouldn't be super long. I'm trying to keep it kind of concise and to the point. I know on the schedule we had said that it's today was going to be a class about sticking with the pointy end. I'm kind of we're still going to be touching on that a little bit, but in a kind of a sidecar way. Um, Simply because I found I have this new thing I'm working with and I really want to share it with everyone, and also it fits in with the whole stabby thing. Um, or KDF stabby thing. Let's see. Um, in terms of announcements, we have this Friday is not going to be class as it is a holiday. So we're going to Kat and Josh are going to be hosting a all day movieathon on the Discord. There's a schedule, and so check it out. It should be good fun. I might try to do an impromptu YouTube video at some point for some technique stuff. I'm not sure yet. We'll see. And then let's see. The following Tuesday, the 29th, I believe, there's going to be class. We're not quite sure exactly what the topic is. Um, Joe originally was. I think that's is that the one where I believe Joe was had originally signed up to do a class. His work schedule has been really intense. So he's going to be taking over a class in January, and he's going to be doing a Messer lecture, comparing different texts. It's really cool, and I look forward to checking it out with all of you. And also, the big thing is on January 1st is going to be our big 1,000 Cuts Day. So make sure to sign up and take that class, because there's also going to be some really cool announcements about how we're going to be moving forward over in 2021. So I'm excited, and I have a lot of good news, and I really look forward to sharing it with you all. That being said, I'm going to switch over to my teaching camera, and I guess we'll get started. All right, everyone good? All right. So just in general notes, if you feel free to type a note in the Discord on the hashtag Longsword channel, or here, and it'll be more likely that I see it in the YouTube. Okay, so switching cameras now. All right, let me grab my Messer-like object. Now that one is here. All right, so let's go ahead and first we'll salute in. All right, so Aktun. Begrüße. All right, let us put our sword down, and we'll do our warm-up exercises. All right. Let me actually move this my little helper robot here. I'll make sure I don't get stabbed. That's kind of the point. All right. All right. So warm-ups, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Alright, grab your longsword or messer-like object. Let's do some warm-up cuts. Alright. So, into the Lugenslan, or Vamtag for all the longsword folks. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Alright, down to the Sprechfenster. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All the way down to Bastille, or Alber for all you longsword people. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Alright, good, good, good. Now, from Lugensland, right Oberhau. Or Vamtag, right Oberhau. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Switch your feet. Lugensland, left Oberhau. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Alright, we're going to do left Oberhau, right Unterhau. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Switch your feet. Same thing other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Alright, let's do Mittelhau. Into the Mittelhut. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Switch sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, now let's go to Stier on the right. Oberhau with step if you have the space. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Alright, from the same Stier, we're going to cut left Oberhau. Right, to the skull, directly out. Don't wind out back big, but from the Stier, cut that left Oberhau. Okay? Und 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Alright, same thing. What we're going to do now is we're going to be in that right Stier. What we're going to do is when we go to take that cut, we're going to pull the tip back and all the forward. So even if you have a long sword, start here. Right. The whole point of this cut is to make it a particularly wrathful cut or a particularly hard cut. It is a way to gain extra momentum, something we're not supposed to do in tournaments because this is something that you can really bash people's skulls with. But it's mostly used to hit swords away, right? Or if you need to come down extra hard on an opponent, it's there for that as well. All right. So from this Stier, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, let's go into the right Nebenhut. Oberhau with step. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Alright. Let's go into the left Nebenhut, or Mittelhut, depending on how high you want to hold it. We're going to cut left Oberhau. Und 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Alright, into the left steer, we're going to cut Oberhau with step if you have it. Step if you have the space. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Alright, good. Let's do some thrusting practice. So from Eber or Flug on the right, I want everyone to take a small step and then thrust to Ox or Stier on the right. Und 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. Now I'd like from this right Eber, I want you to go to left Stier. Right? And when we go to this left Stier, make sure you are showing the inverted hand, right? When we do this thrust, this is called the straight hand. This is the inverted hand. Alright? So, to the inverted hand into left Stier from right Eber. Or right Flug to left Ox for all longsword folk. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Alright? So now, the next thing I want to do is I want to practice shooting the long point, einschießen. So from this Flug on the right, I want you to thrust with a straight hand, but I want you to thrust at the height of your shoulder, alright? Und 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. Now from that same thing, what I want you to do, same thrust, but so shoulder height, but instead of doing the straight hand, let's use the inverted hand. Okay? Und 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, good, good. Now, let us switch sides. We're going to go into the left Eber and or Flug, and we're going to first thrust to left Stier or Ox. Und 1, 2, drei, vier, fünf, sechs, sieben, acht, neun, 10. Okay. Now from here, we're now going to thrust to right Stier or Ox. Und eins, zwei, drei, vier, fünf, sechs, sieben, acht, neun, 10. All right, good. All right, let's go into the long point, or the Sprechfenster, and we are going to first practice from Sprechfenster, thrusting in with the straight hand. Und eins, zwei, drei, vier, fünf, sechs, sieben, acht, neun, 10. All right. Now let's do the same thing from the Sprechfenster with the inverted hand. Okay. Und eins, zwei, drei, vier, fünf, sechs, sieben, acht, neun, 10. All right. Now let's go into Sprechfenster, and we're going to go straight through, right? As if you're thrusting right into the soft bit of the neck, right here above the rib cage, right? Und eins, zwei, drei, vier, fünf, sechs, sieben, acht, neun, 10. All right, shake it out, grab some water, and we'll start lecture time. This lecture shouldn't be more than like 10, 15 minutes, and then you'll have the rest of the hour to practice for yourself. All right, so let's go to this one. Boom. Okay, for some reason, can folks see the slideshow, or is that not showing up at this moment? I feel like it's not showing up. Let me check. Hold on one second, folks. I'm just checking. I think that I have a bit of a little error here, so I apologize. Okay. Oops. Sorry about that, folks. Give me 1 second, and I will be right with you. The Google presenter thing is not exactly strong. Alright, hold on 1 second. Let me see if I can get this to work. Sorry. Still nothing, I assume? Alright, if not, I'll have to do something else. Okay, it does not want to for whatever reason, it does not want to show the slideshow. That's no fun. Let me try one more thing. Hmm. How about now? Do you see the slideshow? Hoping that this isn't gone. Okay, I think it's there. All right. I think, do you see like a little chart, a circle with a triangle in it? Yes, okay, cool. I don't know what that was, but technology is awful. All right, so here's to hoping that I can make this function okay. So everyone kind of saw on is this showing all the other windows in front of it now? Okay. So everyone, I think, saw in the Discord I kind of posted the a little teaser graphic. And so I wanted to go over this really interesting chart I found in a German text for a couple different reasons. Last few presentations I've given have all talked about Menser a little bit, right? Menser and some foundational stuff. So what we're going to talk about today is a little bit about like Menser and the strong and weak of a bind, and also this chart, because this chart is trying to communicate a lot. Though I know it looks like some type of some type of witchcraft, which it kind of is, and is very powerful magic. So let me see if I can get us to the next slide without crashing everything. Next. Okay. So here we go. This is a little kind of slightly more modern interpretation of it. I just made like little vectors of all the circles. So we still have this primary circle, or the series of circles, and this triangle with this kind of like hash, like these kind of lines between. So what I want to focus on first, and throw a chat message into the YouTube there. Does this look familiar to anybody? And it should, possibly. If anyone has studied some Meyer, or there's other sources where this is also kind of suggested as well. But this should look pretty familiar. It is actually a cutting chart. What is interesting about this piece here is that it doesn't, when it labels these, it is showing us the directions of the cuts. So it's referring to them as cutting planes, not necessarily as the cuts themselves. So you can see that and what also makes this chart unique is there's future labeling about which cut is which, but I'm not going to get into that too much. But yes, so this, despite the fact that it's mostly a Meyer cuts thing, I know a lot of Lichtenauer folks haven't completely this is not a primary part of the study, but it is a very helpful tool for kind of looking at the cuts. Now, I am going to be borrowing a little bit from Tristan here, because he has opinions about what this actually is supposed to mean, especially with the numbering system that they use and kind of the graphics they use for the Meyer cuts themselves, which is going to directly feed, which definitely kind of fed into a lot of our interpretation here. So now here we go. Here's the whole chart again. So next, what I want to do now again, pretty simple. The yellowy orange lines here, the gold lines here are cutting lines. That means someone, if they're going to be doing a hew, it's going to be most likely moving in one of these directions. So next thing I want to look at are these circles. Circles are interesting. Does anyone want to take a guess as to what the circles are? I'm going to do a little pause so I can see the chat, if the chat gets caught up or not. But does anyone want to take a guess at what the circles do? It's one of the things, and I will say that they actually do a couple different things. So there's a couple different right answers here. correct answers here. So these circles are, as I said, a couple different things. What they are being used for, they are actually intended to be used both. Yes, exactly, Dina, like a cone. They are designed to extrude out in front of you. Actually, all of these things that you're putting into the box, like a cone, looks like kind of an archery target, so maybe for thrusts, distance / accuracy. Correct. All of them. And let's talk about that a little bit, shall we? So the first thing we're going to do is it is a guide to help us a little bit with Menser. And the way, as I've kind of discussed previously, the Germans kind of, or the German kind of school text mostly talk about Menser is in terms of distance on the sword. And so you can see here, the Messer is, I use like a little one-handed Messer type sword, but this would go true with all swords. The circle divides the blade up into 4 distinct parts. Now, those 4 distinct parts are... well, I'm not going to get too pedantic about what they are. All you really need to know is that if it's closer to the hilt, it's the strong. If it's closer to the tip, it's weak. So this is technically, at least according to this text that this chart appears with, this little cone in the middle here is the part of the sword is the weak, and then the next segment is the middle weak. It's still, if more traditional Lichtenauer would be this whole everything, then the last 2 circles would be the weak, and then we have the strong, and then the middle strong. Or if you want to think of it as one, in fact, the text recommends it if you're using a smaller weapon, such as a dagger or Messer, maybe. So we have the strong, and then we have the weak. All right? So that's helping us kind of figure out. It's what is nice about it. It's helping us figure out distance, but it is also a helpful measure, right? It's helping us measure distance not just based on our reach, but based on our devices' reach, our weapons' reach, our fencing tools' reach. So that way we can kind of start gauging part of our Menser with that device. Of course, everyone's body is different, so there will be variations, but it is going to come into play once we start talking about our wardings. Now, all right, so let's go back and take a look. But before we get into the wardings, let's go back and look at that circle again, that like little target. Yep. The other thing we have to realize, like Dina had mentioned, it's a cone, and it is. So let's, because it is also talking about space, this kind of 3-dimensional space. Right? So here we go. I'm actually going to, so that's kind of, I apologize, not all the vectors are perfect, all the math isn't perfect here, but in general, this is kind of what they're trying to do. And now this is where I'm kind of stealing, or I should say borrowing some stuff from Tristan. He talks a lot about the Meyer square and frequens modus being this perpetually forward kind of, this forward 3-dimensional thing, 4-dimensional actually, 4-dimensional kind of cone, because time is all part of it, right? And so here we have this cone of this circle extruded out over just a distance, right? That is directly proportional to your fencing implement. Boop, there it is. So there you go. Now you have this kind of image of that, what that's of what that kind of looks like in 3-dimensional space. I always like saying fencing is 4-dimensional because time is a huge, huge part of it. But I don't want to get I don't want people to get mad at my use of the word 4-dimensional. 'Cause I guess that's kind of implied, yeah. Let's see. Moving on. Let me see. Sorry, Chrome.Moving on. So that brings. All right. So now that we kind of understand what these 2 main elements are for, the circles and the crossed lines, the triangles will come to, because we got to kind of get through the purpose of the circles next. It's not just about knowing the distance to something based on the distance of your sword, because Why is that helpful, right? That's the big question. Why is knowing that helpful? Aside from just like a better understanding of your tool is always helpful, yeah? But let's examine the uses of these circles, particularly the one that is purple here, this very light purple. Now, what this text is recommending, that if you are attempting to ward, and I will certify this with I've done a lot of experimentation with this over the last couple weeks. If you're attempting to ward, you need to move your sword out to this third ring. If you're warding a thrust, if someone's thrusting at you, you need to displace their sword by a certain amount so that it's difficult. They cannot immediately change through or change through during the during the parry, or if they are changing through, it gives you enough time to react, space to react. But you must parry it in such a way that it brings their sword past this third line. And now I'm actually going to include a screenshot from the book. Please don't sue me. I love the book. I'm going to promote it at the end. So as you can see here, they are using some rapier. These could just as easily be messers or arming swords, but this also works with longsword as well. If you are thrusting, you can see the sword in the kind of far off space is thrusting towards you. You are then using your sword to displace them to this third ring. This is for safety. Let me be clear that this is a safety thing. A lot of the counter... and in that, as you are moving that sword past that space, you're making sure to engaging their sword, the weak of their sword, with the strong of yours. Okay? So as long as you have either the strong or the middle strong against their middle weak or their weak, you'll be able to displace that thrust, and in that indes action also counter thrust, right? A lot of the things that we don't really talk about when we talk about, say, Absetzen, that is very important when we are discussing things like Absetzen, that we are making sure that we can use Absetzen in a way that puts our strong on their weak and takes advantage of that. If we don't do this, putting our weak on their strong we're going to lose that bind because they're going to have all the leverage. You might get lucky, you might be a little bit faster, you might be a little stronger, but overall, it's not going to be a definitive result, right? It is again. So that's kind of part of the lessons in this single image, right? Or that are supposed to be associated with this single image. Now, so that is kind of, so that kind of gets that talk that is our conversation, like kind of us talking about thrusts in the use of this chart. Let's see. And so, so how I've been working with this, I haven't printed out this chart just yet, but I have been kind of with my messer and my longsword kind of figuring out that distance and then practicing against my beautiful robot helper, my bike stand partner, and then also I have some other volunteers when they've needed to step in. It is also like mostly on after class stuff, but like making sure that when we're parrying, we're using those checking those distances on the swords, and then also applying checking the distance on our particular weapon and measuring that out, and measuring those parries out, right? Making sure that, and then just practicing just moving the sword from, say, a long or Sprechfenster to that distance, or parrying it, in this case, they're carrying an Alber or Bastet, making sure that you're moving the sword out that far. Now, if it's very difficult to practice certain parts of this without a partner, but it is possible to practice that distance, right? So that's kind of how this chart is teaching us how to deal with thrusts, and that's this whole circle, right? If you need to go high, over, right? Trying to make sure you're getting their sword out beyond that space, and then acting correctly from there. Let's see. Next, let's take a look at this ring, the second ring out from the center. The second ring out from the center is where we want to parry our cuts, right? And as an example, here we go. Same thing. Want to make sure that we're parrying the cuts. And once again, we're always making sure that our strong is taking advantage of their weak. The more we can learn to do that, the more successful we're going to become at the after work, right? The other work. Yeah. So again, this second ring is the distance that we need to travel to prevent a cut. Now, that is going to lead us into our next part. All right. Let's look at the whole chart again. So if we look at this whole chart, there's this triangle, which is actually directly related to the cuts. It's going to actually be a little lesson about the cuts. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So this triangle is simply displaying the lines in which our sword must travel toward. Now, folks who've taken my classes before know that when I'm talking about parries, I prefer to use the words ward, especially when we're dealing with more of these historical swords. Personally, partially because parrying or the parade has like a very, I think, different kind of maybe use in modern stuff. I just don't want there to be too much. And I know I use it interchangeably, but I'm trying to be better about that. So as we're warding, or parry, I just did it right. We want to make sure that we're using, if we are warding a cut, we want to make sure that we are also returning with a cutting-like action. Yeah. And this triangle is the triangle in which we should be cutting to counter these different attacks. Right. So let me pull up the cuts there. Right. So you can see we can cut as something's coming in. We can parry it horizontally. Right. The Zwerchhau and the Lichtenauer tradition of the Messer, that's Stier, kind of like a Stier type action, winding between the Stiers, or cutting between the Stiers would solve for this. The Krumpau, you can see where the Krumpau and the Schielhau all kind of fit into this, right? Because they all kind of cut through this kind of triangle. And if you use them as these cuts, to use them as parries or wards, a whole lot of stuff starts making sense. And again, this is where the use of strong and weak come into play. And it is very important to always make sure that we are utilizing our strong against their weak. There are things you can do if your weak ends up on their strong, but that's other stuff. And usually that's going to be more like a change through type or a taking off type situation, right? So hold on, let me flip back here. All right, so that kind of brings me to my primary point again, and I'll repeat it. So this triangle is the way it wants the direction it wants us to cut. Now it doesn't specify with short edge, long edge, or anything, but it's the idea that you are then cutting into that parry. Now, let me see if I can put my teaching camera here, just because it might be a little easier for me to demonstrate. Yeah. Okay. All right. Oh my God, there's two of me. All right. Where did I put my messer? Okay. So, if you look at this chart, and you want to look at, say, some kind of classical or some traditional Lichtenauer cuts, all right, we can begin with, say, Zornhau, which is typically just a peasant's cut, right, or just a simple cut. And that's the case. If you look at that triangle, there's an angle there, right? We're cutting this part. Now you can cut across. Right? If we extrude that out, Zwerchhau makes a little more sense. Yeah. And then also Same thing with, like, say, Krumpau. Cutting that left line. Shielhau, you're still cutting into that triangle, right? And et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So therefore, it can be like, you can use, I'm not saying it's the only purpose, but you can use the hews as a form of deployment, right? For the Messer folk, we use a lot of, like, striking away. Now that travels across that line, right? Or across and over, right? Yeah, so that's a real basics, and so what I like everyone like. So as you're kind of working with these things, or working, if you're going to go if you're going to go approach the hews, think of them in this term. How would I use this as an offensive? How would I use this as defensive? Should it be used for these different things? Because usually, if you look at, like, Ziakao, for example, it says it takes everything that is from the roof. Cool. But then why? So it breaks vom Tag. So that means, okay, so that means there's, like, some sort of cut coming in from above, vom Tag from above, from the day, from the roof. And then Ziakao is going to take it away because that horizontal strike, and it just in this case, it just has to you have to make sure that it's a high strike in order to take it from the roof. And then you can do other things. Right? Yeah, so, okay. So that's just kind of, and again, the big thing, and this is, again, something that we should probably really get back more into discussing in terms of our fencing, is making sure we can identify the weak and the strong, and then how to use our bodies and our mensur, retraining ourselves, especially as we are marching back in the next 6 months or so towards in-person classes, starting to retrain our bodies now to start being able to take advantage of that mensur, right? Because we don't want to just always be moving forward and hacking at each other. That is literally the worst part of Hema, right? We want to make sure that when we are fencing smartly. And these are all tools that will help us fence smarter, right? Even against opponents who are fencing aggressively. Yeah, so that's my pitch for mostly trying to convince myself now is the time, even though we're heading into winter, to start thinking about 6 months from now, and I'm thinking about with myself where I want to be in my fencing in 6 months. What do I want to have, like, accomplished? And I'm typically really bad about deadlines and try to rush everything in the last minute. But I promised myself I wouldn't do that this time. But anyway, that all aside, what I'm really getting at here is back to the lesson of the whole thing. This particular chart is a really good tool for a lot of reasons, because this chart is a really great tool because it is, like, 3-dimensional, and it's also something you can think about as the circle and these lines of movement that are normally the cuts are also really good to put them on your floor, and you like a large version. Think of it as, like, this kind of 3D view for folks who play video games. Like, you're behind the character, and there's, like, these rings outside of you, right? We kind of talked about that with, like, the different distances. This is another way of, like, another layer, another view layer, another heads-up display layer of information for you to have. And so this is a really great tool because it helps us think about some mensur, like our distances. It helps us think of our tool and how is that tool being divided up, and how are the divisions of that tool helpful for the application of our fencing. And on top of that, it also teaches us how to parry, right? Or ward. Sorry. You can use this outer circle and cut between points in this outer circle to parry. you would wind between these circles, the outer circle, which is to parry or to ward displace versetzen. We'll use the word versetzen for versetzen of thrusts, making sure to get the sword safely aside. And then the inner circle, the second circle from the center, is one for parrying cuts. And you use that triangle to kind of move around. And of course, as your sword moves, that kind of, from your center, changes a little bit depending on the situation. So that's that. This can all be found in this book, The True Principles of Combat. It is a 16th century document. But it is, in fact, it is a German text that is written in Latin. A German text written in Latin that describes a variety of things. It has a longsword. It has it describes longsword, the halberd, spears, messer. And what they refer to as rapier, but it's really a side sword because it's all I-30, kind of an interpretation of I-33 and Glasgow, kind of all wedged together. I really believe that they've kind of, and what they're saying is that this core science or this core approach works with all manner of weapons, and it is the teachings. This is from kind of like this is the old teachings. I'm going to explain it, but I'm going to explain it in a new scientific way. Right, so it's a great book. I own the PDF. I bought the ebook version of it, the electronic book version of it, because the hardcover is quite expensive. If you check out that link, it ain't cheap. It's like $100. I think it's totally worth it if you have that kind of money to spend on a book. If not, I have a PDF I can loan people. I think you can loan it. I don't know. It might be DRM'd. I have to check. But please check it out. It's the PDF. The ebook is like $20. It's really, really beautiful. A lot of really great information in it, and I think it totally directly applies to KDF, the Lichtenauer KDF stuff that we're doing, especially with Messer. But definitely even with longsword. It specifically says it, and there's a great photo of some guys doing longsword fencing in it. And it really, in my opinion, I think it is describing particular materials that were probably that are left out from a lot of our glosses, and there's nothing in here that conflicts with the actual material in the be it von Danzig or Udalev, or I can qualify the Udalev because that's like my primary text of base of knowledge for KDF Lichtenauer longsword. But this is again, fits in, and I think it is great because it explains the materials. It's like filling in the gaps, right? All that frog DNA we're always talking about that we're looking for, it's kind of here. And I think that's pretty great. So I highly recommend checking it out. If you have trouble finding it, let me know, and I can put you on the right path. Otherwise, I wanted to just open up the floor to any questions people might have. Yeah, the owl is pretty. The owl is pretty awesome. I'm a big fan of the owl. So I'm just gonna hold for questions for a second because I know that there's always a bit of a delay. Go to actually a different window here so I can all right, well, if there are no questions, I will move along to whatchamacallit, I guess let's go ahead and salute out then, yeah? Like I said, I didn't want to make this run too far over, and I think I'm ending it just on time, so let's call it. I say, normally these classes go on till 8:30, but like I said, take the next half hour or so for yourself, and keep practicing. Like especially indoors right now. Practice the basics. Do some footwork stuff. Do some basic cutting things. Otherwise, let's go ahead and salute out. All right. So, grab sword or master-like object. Aktun. Begrüße. Okay, Dankeschön. So yeah, so just again, couple quick things. No class this coming Friday. There's going to be a Discord movie marathon, and then next week, the TBD class on Tuesday, and then the following Friday is New Year's already. Can you believe it? 2020 is finally fucking over. But we will be doing on January 1st. There will be 1,000 cuts, along with some fun and really exciting announcements about 2021. And I hope you all will join me, and for some special announcements. And if you get a chance, please check out my Ko-Fi. The link's right here. These classes, like I always say, I teach these classes for free. We offer them for free online. But any donation that you can put forward would be really helpful in keeping the resources available for this moving forward. And all the money that that I collect on this Ko-Fi during these streams get invested right back into Hema and Hema adjacent research. Yeah. All right. Thank you all so much, everybody, and we'll talk to you all soon. Bye-bye.